So we start each one of these. We're on episode 24, and we start each one of these like we don't know what we're doing. I think that's my shtick at this point. But if I don't have it together by 24 episodes, I think there's a problem. And I need to get it together because we have I was calling him a Tampa Titan this morning. You have probably frequented I can't even talk right now because I'm so excited, but been to his coffee shops many times. So that's Buddy Brew Coffee right there. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the flavor because I'm getting, again, very excited. So Buddy Brew Coffee, I have co-founder and CEO, Mr. Dave Ward in the house of Buddy Brew. What's going on, my man?
Hey, Kevin, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. It's summer.
Absolutely. Well, you got I missed out. I should have worn a Hawaiian shirt for Hawaiian Shirt Friday. I got a couple buddies that I do that with. So you clearly got the memo. Yeah. And shame on me. But we're here today, man. I am so excited from reading about, first of all, I had you guys recently at one of my events with the truck, the Buddy Brew truck, which your staff was amazing. And then I got to meet Tammy and Ben through email and phone calls and things like that. So, and then obviously I know Phil we talked about. So random name dropping to say, you have an amazing team and really on it, customer service oriented, very sweet people. So I wanted you to know that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you just named 3 awesome rock stars. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad you had a great experience.
Yeah, no, it was super good. And they were on top of it. So before we kind of just get into it, I want to say we talked about it. You have 8 locations, 7 of them that you guys operate. Yes. You guys have been around 15 years. Yeah. You're in the retail game. Yeah. You're in the, obviously the coffee game. You do pastries and things like that as well. So a lot of different moving parts. But before we get into the real meat and potatoes, as I like to say, how did Buddy Brew start?
Well, Buddy Brew was really just an extension of this crazy freakish passion for coffee that both my wife and I had. And even from the early days of dating, it was just a central part of who we were. She would hang out in coffee shops. And so where she went, of course, that's where I would go.
Of course.
All right. And it just became like this for me, an eye-opening thing. And it wasn't Starbucks. And Starbucks was proliferating at that point. This is kind of the mid-90s. And but we didn't go to Starbucks. We went to the little local shops down in Naples, Florida.
I know Naples. I went to law school down there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. And so that's where it happened. And so the first gift I ever gave her was a $15 coffee maker from Walmart.
Okay.
Very romantic, I know. But that was the gig, and that just started this path down this road, for, in search of a better cup. And so that's what we did, and we joined coffee clubs. And at that time, even before it was cool, we had a little Melita cone filter that we could brew one little cup. We were manually brewing. Mm-hmm. We had a French press and a Chemex. And so we were just actively looking like, how can we make this better? How can we make this better? And so that kind of led, after a few years, to actually home roasting coffee. And we began home roasting coffee in 2002.
Okay.
And that was the big moment. That was the moment where it's like, oh my gosh, fresh roasted coffee is just better than anything you can find in a grocery store, regardless if you even know what you're doing or not, right? And we didn't at the time. We were just newbies in this thing. But that is kind of the main idea that began to shape this, eventual business, Buddy Brew Coffee. So that's kind of how that was it. I'm a commercial. I was a real estate guy. I was a realtor for years, and then got into the commercial side on the finance side. My wife was a sales manager for a large pharmaceutical company. And so every office.
So you had the pieces together to create a, we'll call it a retail business or a restaurant type business or whatever between you and your wife. That's amazing.
Well, restaurant is a whole nother gig.
But at least you had those foundations between sales and real estate where it's like we can put the general, whereas most people, if they're starting a business, they have to seek those things. They don't have that knowledge base. Yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we knew how to make coffee, put it that way. We didn't know much else. And really our initial idea wasn't a cafe. It was to create a tasting room where people could come in and really experience this thing that we had stumbled into and found and began to develop and just buy bags of coffee. And really, it was a wholesale business. So it was selling to other cafes, restaurants, hotels, whatever, right? And it was a tough gig because our coffee was so much more expensive than anybody else's at the time. We are a specialty coffee roaster, and specialty is a designation of coffee. It's not like saying gourmet coffee or craft coffee. It's a designation, and we can get into all that if you want to. But the point is that really specialty coffee is the top 5% of coffee available in the world. And really, we're pulling from the top 2% because we're looking for coffees that are even, way up into the specialty coffee or
Let me ask you with the specialty coffee. So what makes a coffee? I do want to know what makes a coffee special.
It's great. Well, the definition of specialty coffee is coffee without defect. And so it's graded very similarly to wine. So there's a 100-point scale. And in order for it to be specialty, it has to be at least 80 points. So the coffees that Buddy Brew buys are usually 85 points or higher.
And that determination is made by the vendors that you're purchasing from, the growers, I guess?
Well, yes, partially true.
Stay with me, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in the weeds here.
Yeah. So there is a whole system out there that the world uses to grade coffee. And,
wow, okay.
And so everybody, it doesn't matter if you're here or you're in Vietnam or you're in Colombia, are grading the coffees the exact same way. And it's about you. It's all about cupping and the experience that you kind of get. And so when we get coffees, it's pre-graded by vendor, by the producers. Then we get a forward sample, we cup it, we grade it. And if it's in alignment, then that's good. If it's out of alignment, that's bad, right? So anyway, that's kind of how it all works. So we all use the same kind of system. It's a universal thing.
One thing I'm going to say too is I think, and I'm going to give you a hard time right now because I think it's unfair that you're in the coffee business because you and all of your people probably have so much energy and are so much more productive. That was a horrible lawyer joke, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just kidding.
Well, we're here to fuel you.
Yeah,
that's the point.
If you want to do better in business and in life, you need to go grab a cup of Buddy Brew because they got it figured out. No, I thought about it. I'm like, I have to give them a hard time about that. Everybody there has got to just have the biggest smiles and stuff like that. They've probably already had 2 or 3 cups of coffee. So you wanted to, it sounds like to me, and I want to get back to it and summarize, you found one of the big things that I've, kind of discovered through these podcasts is a lot of people talk about sales. And I'm like, there's got to be something, more, I guess, pure phrase than that. Always be closing, blah, blah, blah. We've always heard. My big thing has become service over sales.
Yeah.
And if you have a great service and a product that you believe in, the sales will come. But it doesn't seem like you guys were really trying to create a business, or maybe you were, but it was something to just fund the passion. But really, you were trying to create something that your colleagues and friends in coffee clubs and you and your wife could enjoy and be proud of because you loved coffee and you wanted to spread that. And then it turned into this, where it is today, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you. When I used to interview all the new people coming into Buddy Brew, the first question I'd ask them was, what business do you think we're in? And they would answer something like, oh, well, you run coffee shops or you're a coffee roaster. Not wrong, but not exactly right. We're actually in the people business, and specifically, we're in the people happiness business. We just happen to do it through a wild-ass cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right? Great customer service, great store aesthetics. All those things have to be part of the entire package in order for it to happen right. And the way we compete isn't just through a great cup of coffee. I mean, that's essential. But really, it's the whole experience that a customer has from the minute they walk in to the minute they leave that separates us from powerhouses like Starbucks. And by the way, most people disparage Starbucks. I do not. Without Starbucks, there wouldn't be a Buddy Brew, right? I'm glad, but I don't mind being next door to them either. Once they come to Buddy Brew, they're not going to go back. But we're not going to be the most convenient. They're on every corner, right? So that means we just have to be better. And not just better, we have to be great. And that is the whole point, great in everything we do.
100%. I get the same thing. I guess the similar analogy could be made about my business. So, everybody knows I'm a car accident attorney and a personal injury attorney. We try not to chase ambulances. We get in trouble for that. So it's a bad joke. But, everybody brings up Morgan & Morgan. First of all, there would not be a mammoth of a personal injury industry if there wasn't for Morgan & Morgan. I know a lot of those guys there. They're actually really good attorneys and really good guys. And they're in every state, and they have offices throughout. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars throughout the United States on advertising. So again, the only way that we can differentiate ourselves is to provide, again, the best service possible. The best from the moment they sign up to us to the moment that they get their settlement. Yeah. We have to provide the best service. And what we get a lot of flack for in our business is, well, I have a smaller case. I understand that you may not have as much time for me. And I write back immediately, and I could screenshot text messages. I don't care if you have a $10,000 case or a $10 million case. I treat you exactly the same. and you have my cell phone number just like everybody else. And that's the magic, saying all that between me and, Dave's stories. That's the magic that if you're starting a business in a very populated, business structure or business atmosphere, you just got to be better. That's all. But you don't have to be a hater. And that's the bigger thing, because
100%.
I think that's where you lose ground and you lose credibility if it's like, our coffee is better than, this one and that one. No. Hey, listen, when you come into a Buddy Brew, we're going to provide you the best service possible with the highest quality of coffee. And hopefully you stick around and tell 5 friends.
Exactly.
So, very cool. I want to get into your role as CEO, and I appreciate you sharing your story. I mean, obviously, we'll talk more about scale as we get deeper into the podcast, or the pod, as the kids call it. How do you balance being a CEO and then also, having a normal life, spending time with your wife and things like that, outside of the business?
Yeah, let's just step back from that question, because I think it's a great one. But I want to say this really quick. My wife and I are 50-50 partners in this. So I may be the CEO. She's the president. Mm-hmm. We have very different roles in the company. I run the whole company. Mm-hmm. I'm the vision driver, right? I'm looking for opportunity. My goal is to grow the company in line with our mission, vision, and values, right? Susan's role is a little more operational than that. Although she is the brand ambassador, she is the designer, she runs marketing, but she also runs wholesale. And there's we haven't gotten into what our actual business structure is, but we will in a minute. But she runs wholesale, which has two main silos in it. And I'm telling you what, that business is crazy. Mm-hmm. And so without her, this wouldn't be. She is a rock star among rock stars. I married way up. She's the consummate professional, buttoned up and amazing.
We'll clip that and send it to her. Yeah, that part.
Well, but it's true.
No, I get it.
And I'm the kind of the crazy passionate one, the risk taker, the one who's willing to kind of put it all on the line to go after something that I believe in, right? So that balance between the two of us is kind of an amazing thing. So Dave is CEO. Getting to your question, I don't even know what it means to be a CEO, to be honest with you, right? I'm a leader, right? And so what I try and do is show up and show up in a way where I'm serving the company first. So it's servant leadership. And I think this is an important part that I want to shout. And you may cringe when I say it, but I hope you don't. We are a Christian business, and so we are held to a higher standard.
So you're talking to the guy that went to Christian high school, Catholic, undergrad, and Catholic law school.
Okay.
So
okay, cool. That's amazing.
You're in a safe space.
Okay, well,
so I just lost like 900 subscribers. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, right. I only had 800 to start with. So, but
the bottom line is
I think faith-based principles are incredibly important. And if you, from a, and not to go down, that path or anything like that, but if you read the Bible or read some of the studies or say, go on ChatGPT where all the kids are going and say, share those business principles out of the Bible, they're very, synonymous with any book or anything, don't steal, do right, take care of thy brother, et cetera, et cetera. They're just written in a different form.
That's exactly right. So the whole principle that drives Buddy Brew is one thing, and it's so simple, and it's one word. It's love, right? We have to love people first and foremost. If you look at our values, the number one value we have is people. And I've never seen another company have people as a value. Well, it's our number one, right? And so that is the crux of everything, love. And, the golden rule, what you kind of referenced a little bit, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is exactly how we drive this thing. But as CEO, I am a servant leader. And that is everything. I serve in order to even earn the right to lead anything, And so that is kind of the driving principle behind who I am. And we have a whole thing that we use that drives this idea of servant leadership into our stores, because it's no different from what I'm doing, at the top level to what's actually happening on the front line of what we do. It's the same thing, right? They serve, they show up, they smile, they befriend, they do whatever is necessary to make that transaction absolutely amazing every single time. Are we perfect? No, but we push and we push and we push. So this idea of servant leadership is pervasive through our company. And we call it 2 T-shirts. There's a T-shirt that everyone puts on every day. That one reads, "It's all about me." The selfish T-shirt. Not a bad T-shirt. It's a necessary one, right? It's the one that says, today I'm going to get up, I'm going to push myself forward, I'm going to survive, I'm going to climb the ladder, I'm going to work on some goals, and maybe even reach towards a dream. But when you walk through the doors of Buddy Brew, you have to take that one off and you put a different t-shirt on. And that one reads, it's all about you. And if I'm all about you and you're all about me, I know you. You know me, right? And there's two main components to making that whole thing work right. And it's all couched in this weird word, relationship, right? We have a relationship. So in any relationship, there's two things that are necessary. One is inherent, it's trust. If you don't trust somebody, you're not really going to have a relationship with them. We kind of consider trust the currency of any relationship, right? So if that trust cup is full, the relationship's usually going pretty good, right? Starts to empty, there's some problems cropping up. Empties too far, the relationship is typically over, right? So then the next piece, which is kind of the hard piece, the scary piece, is vulnerability. Right? And vulnerability is scary because that means I'm telling you something about me that is deep. You know, it's meaningful to me. And you can say to me, Dave, okay, nuh-uh. This isn't going to work, you know, or whatever. So that's a scary place to be. So this idea of trust and vulnerability together is what makes any relationship thrive. So the point of what we do every day is we meet people where they are. When someone chooses Buddy Brew, what are they doing in that moment? They're sliding their trust cup over to us, right? What are they trusting us for? They're trusting us for a wild-ass cup of coffee. They're trusting us for a smile from the barista and the cashier. They're trusting us for hot, fresh pastries. They're trusting us for clean bathrooms that don't have a nasty toilet and toilet paper on the floor. They're trusting us for creamer stations that aren't filled with spilt milk and sugar. Most people would say, hey, that's my strategy. I'm going to do these things and we're going to win. That's not our strategy. Our strategy is love. If you are doing these things from that perspective of love, then all those things become common sense. Of course I'm going to do those things. Of course, this is what we're going to do. This is because I love my customers. And then what happens is that in that moment where that has turned into a mini relationship, then the customer is like so excited to say, oh my gosh, Kevin's on bar today. He knows my 4-shot vanilla latte like nobody other. It's going to be amazing, right? And the same thing happens back to them. It's like, it's now they're loving out too. So it's a mutual love thing that happens, which benefits everybody in that moment. And so then you're doing business with friends, you know, and that changes the whole game. And that's how the army of Buddy Brew followers has grown over the years. That's not because of our awesome marketing, because really what we do is social media and some email stuff, you know, that kind of thing. It's the army out there shouting our name that have experienced this day after day after day after day. So my job as CEO is to drive this day in and day out.
There's a lot to unpack there. I'm just going to take a deep breath. I should have took notes, but I'm pretty smart, so I'm going to rip through this.
I love it.
So one of the things, quite a few things I'm going to break down with that from that.
Yep.
I have multiple partners at my firm as well, and everybody kind of has their own role in how they do things. And I've talked about that with my team as well as my partners that, you know, we all are rowing the same boat, but we all have different jobs because you can only hold one oar. You know, see what I did there?
Yeah,
Just came
I
up with that. Very similar to me as I'm, you know, very much the marketing guy. I'm out in the streets. I'm out, making relationships, meeting people, meeting with clients, you know, everything that I need to do in order to brand the brand of Levin Law and my law firm and things. I cannot also, to the best of my ability, and I do a good job of it, but run the team and run the staff. But like you said, is what I can do. Every time I have, you know, a spare couple hours or something along those lines, I don't go to my home office and hide. I go to my main office and I go see my employees and I go see my people and say, hey, I'm in the trenches with you. And I think being visible to your people is so important because they can hear what you're saying, but if they don't see what you're doing, then you just don't have, like you said, that full cup of trust. So that's one thing I wanted, or two things rather. One, you can't always do it by yourself as you scale. And number two is that trust back and forth with your people is very, very important. And showing up and showing that you support them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is you said your marketing as far as email marketing and some social media and things like that. We just started recently doing billboards, but we're not like on radio and TV and things like that. You know, we're trying to grow brand awareness. I would say probably 60% of our clients come from prior clients, friends, family, and things like that. Yeah. We've had a lot of success. And what I try to tell my staff is every time that we can bring in a client because they had a great service, that's one less dollar that I have to spend on marketing, and that's one more dollar that I could spread on celebrating you and, you know, through raises and bonuses and rewards and things like that. So people don't understand what a marketing tool good customer service is and exchanging that trust cup back and forth. that it just benefits the whole organization.
Yeah.
So every time I can get a Google review, that's, one more opportunity to get a new client. Every time that, they know, case manager so-and-so by name, and they know that they always pick up the phone, et cetera, et cetera. And all of that builds and that momentum builds. So I say that to say, don't forget about the free things. It's really easy to go spend, thousands of dollars on ads every month. But it's a lot easier to create those bonds and create those relationships.
For sure.
So you go into, we were talking about, balancing. So you have that role between you and your wife, and she kind of handles more of the day to day, and, you're the visionary.
Well, she is a visionary too.
Well, oh yeah. And not discount that in that at all. I guess saying respectively of your two roles, when does it shut off, and how do you just go back to being husband and wife? I guess well, you guys both have a passion and business owner, so I get it's hard.
Yeah. I think being a husband-wife partnership is hard, because turning it off is difficult, right? Because, that's what we talk about. We get home and it's like, oh my gosh, this happened today, that happened today, whatever, like how you feel about that, whatever. And so we've had to try very, very intentionally to turn it off when we walk through the door. Are we perfect at that? No. And you could ask our kids and they'd say, like, all they talk about is money. But, and it's also, necessary, because you have to just be husband and wife as well. And then, father and mother, right? Because if you're just always business, it doesn't kind of work right. So that's kind of what, our path is. What I would say is, would I recommend our path to everybody? No, I think it's a path that is really, really hard. That said, it is the best thing we ever did. It has made us stronger in deeper ways than we ever could have even envisioned. And so, all the things that a marriage, goes through, we've probably gone through. We've been married over 28 years now.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, and so we've been through it. But there now is just this underlying trust and foundation that allows us to kind of just say, that doesn't really matter that much. Why am I anxious about it or angry about it or whatever those things are? You just let it go and move on. You just kind of got to go. But it is critical. We once went to, had a person that kind of was speaking into our lives a little bit and said, hey, vision this. You get home, you're on the front doorstep. Take your shoes off and leave those business shoes at the door. Because as soon as you walk through that door, you have to be husband, you have to be father, you have to, be all of these other things. The business is okay. It needs to just stay back there. That's a tough one. But that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For me, I've been married 6 years together with my wife for 11. And
Awesome.
6 years in November. Yeah, she's my best friend. I mean, it's been amazing. And when I do go to the St. Pete office, I live in Brandon, so I have a little bit of a commute, and I try to get as much as I can get done, client calls if I have to, whatever I have to do. So I try to, if I have to work an hour later so I can come home and be, present, then I do that. And I try to, the biggest game changer for us, I'm sure you guys have that anyway, is we created a family calendar.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, put all your stuff on there. And I'm like, make it as detailed as possible. Like I'll go shoot, she makes dinner, God bless her and stuff like that. And then we have 2 young kids as well. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to eat leftovers tonight. Last night was really good. I'll put it in the notes section and stuff like that. Like very awkward love language, but it's like, hey, everything was amazing last night. I'm going to eat it again tonight. See you around 6:30, And that's really worked for us, because sometimes, she works as well and we're both so busy. She's a marketing manager. So, to have that communication where you don't pick up the phone or have to answer 5 text messages has been working with us. And I'm sure you can say too that it's not a one size fits all. It evolves over time, different needs over different parts of the marriage and things like that.
Sure. Well, congratulations on the 11 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations to her that she's put up with me that long. I mean, I would say anybody that can last through law school and through studying for the bar, you could probably make it through 99% of other things. So definitely some trying times in our life. So as you guys grew this, you guys, as we talked about, 7 locations that you guys run, 1 location that you guys license out, retail, wholesale, all these different things that you do, which is kind of synonymous. How did you scale? How did that evolution go?
It happened over time.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like we started with the perfect model and it was just, set to go to, throughout the entire country. It wasn't like that at all. We created everything. We created the systems. And then over time, what happened is that there are people better suited for like running our cafes than I was. I ran the cafes for 10 years.
Let me ask too. So with going through this, so did you create the process and then find the person? Is that kind of how that went most of the time? Like, this is what I need, and this is the and I'm sure that's not every time, but it's like, okay, we needed somebody that can run the cafes. Let's plug in, let's find that operator, et cetera. Or
I would say it was a little bit of both sides of that. As we kind of knew that, like, really my skill set wasn't perfectly suited for running cafes because, the restaurant business in general is a penny business. Every penny counts.
Yeah.
And I am just not that level of detail, right? I'm a big picture guy. And so it was always a stretch for me to always be in that kind of mode, right? And it wasn't fun and it wasn't exciting and it, just to always be driving those things. So we knew what that person...
It was a need for the business, but not a desire for you to do it, more or
Well,
less.
I just wasn't going to ever be the best at it. So we wanted to find somebody who was the best at it and loved it, like had the passion for it, like I have the passion for other things.
Of course.
So what, our whole mode always is to hire from within, internally bring people up into the business. And so like our current director of retail operations, which is our cafes in our world, is Jeremy Martin. And he came up, he started as a barista in Sarasota. He became the store manager there, and then moved to Tampa. He wanted to get to the bigger city,
so cool.
and ended up managing our Hyde Park store for 6 years. And he was just perfectly aligned with kind of the exact person we needed to run multiple cafes. So it was like we knew what the role was. We knew kind of what the job description was and all that, and he just fit it to a T. Does that happen every time? No, it doesn't. But that was, in that situation, we did know it. Now, in terms of creating a scalable business, there's a great book out there. It's The Great E-Myth. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but a lot of it has to do with McDonald's. And the idea there is that, as an entrepreneur, we have a skill or a product that is, that we can do better than anybody else. So we're going to do this thing. Well, what happens as soon as you get into it is like, I was roasting coffee, I was running a cafe, I was hiring, all these things. It's like I wasn't really even doing this thing that I really had a passion for anymore. I was doing books and I was doing all that other stuff, right? So you hire somebody. Who do you hire? You hire yourself. It's kind of how it rolls. And all of a sudden you have a company of yourself, and that is not good because I'm not that detailed guy, right? I mean, I can be that detailed guy for a time, but it's never going to be as good as it should be. So you learn that really quick, and this book kind of is all about this idea of the myth. Like, just because I can do it better doesn't mean it's going to be a successful business. You have to create repeatability from a perspective of like, I'm not even there. And once the business gets to the point where it can run without you being there for 6 months, then you kind of are there.
Yeah. You've
done it. And so our idea was to create those kind of systems that were repeatable, so we could plug people into them and do them, right? So that was kind of how we've done what we do, and then the systems get refined and refined and refined and refined, or replaced. And I'm a big technology guy, always have been. So anytime I can find a piece of technology that can somehow help us do something better, more efficiently, quicker, whatever, I'm all about it. So we've always been pressing that too. So those two things combined, I think, have helped us be able to scale.
I think I'm really glad that you touched on that. I think business owners, a lot of times, especially in the beginning, and I know, times are tough, and as far as capital and things like that, they always try to hire somebody to fill a role when they're just overflowing with stress rather than being visionary about it. And it's like and I think that comes down to even stepping back further is knowing your numbers. And it's like, okay, our retail locations are taking up 70% of my time, or we're at 80% of capacity. Yeah. Don't wait until you're at 120 or 150% capacity where you're just overworked, where you go and finally hire that person. Know your numbers and be aware enough where you can correct that early on and plug that person in, because if you don't hire that person soon enough, and it's never a perfect time, but if you don't hire that person soon enough, then you're stepping back even further because you have to train that person, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah, and I think you hit on a great number. I think, our rule of thumb is about 75% of capacity.
Correct.
Once you
Yep.
get to that,
Okay, cool.
that number, you have to really begin thinking, I need to add somebody.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page. The other thing is with that, and you touched on, is hiring A players or hiring A plus players or promoting A plus players. And a lot of times, not hating, but a lot of times in my industry, what they try to do is hire, as cheaply as possible. So it's like, oh, let me hire a paralegal or attorney or a case manager or things like that and try to pay them the least amount possible or try to, find somebody, commiserate to that experience. And it's like, when I joined with my firm, I said, listen, when we hire people, I said, I only want to hire the best. And I said, that's going to come at a premium. We're going to have to pay more, than the market rate. But we are going to hire the best group of people that we can find that we can plug and play and go on about our day. Because I feel like a lot of times in business, if you don't promote within or don't pay the premium, you take, 3 steps forward to hire this person, a cheap person, and then 5 steps back because they really only have, 9 times out of 10, so much experience, so much, bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So if you try to cheap out.
Yeah, aces in places.
Yeah.
You got to have the right people in the right seats. And so in order to get there, you have to know what your seats are.
Correct.
You have to understand what you need, what the business needs, and how that whole structure kind of works.
And that's been my, over the, next 6 months, my goals for 2025 is, 1, figuring out an org chart, and then 2, going through and what are these different attributes, details, et cetera, that each of these roles hold. Then it's like, who's the best person, for that? Is the person that's currently in that seat the best seat? Should they be moved around? Should we hire, et cetera? So
yeah, there's a great system out there.
Yeah.
If you're interested.
I love it. I love
it's
systems.
called EOS.
Okay.
And it's the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
And it defines all these things. Instead of it being an org chart, it's actually called an accountability chart.
Okay.
And so what you do is you look at your company and you without anybody in any particular area, you say, what does this structure actually look like, or what does it need to be? And that's even a better question, right? And you kind of build this thing out, right? Down. And then you put your people in. And then you say, then there's a piece of it that's called GWC, which is get it, want it, and can do it, right? And so if the answer to the get it question, the want it question, or the can do it question is no, it's not the right person for the seat. It's that simple, right? And the can do it question is the only one where there's maybe a little room in there because can you develop them?
Correct.
If they get it and they want it,
are they trainable?
Are they trainable? So that's the one. But in general, that's the whole thing. And so anyway, but it's more than just that. It's a meeting cadence. It's like, all these different things that happen, and setting goals, and all that stuff. So anyway, check it out. It's good. It's a great system.
How do you, and maybe it starts even with the interview process. You've talked so much about your culture and your values and how you guys do things. How do you continue to nurture that that culture? How do you get rid of bad actors?
Getting rid of bad actors. Well, if we do all of it right, the culture will get rid of the bad actors. They will not fit. So it starts from hiring, right? We hire people. And if people don't love people, they're never going to fit into our culture. Do we get fooled sometimes? Of course we do. But the idea there is that the culture itself will be almost self-monitoring. And then people will leave because they
don't fit.
They don't fit, right? So that's a big piece of that. But it does start at the very beginning. So Susan and I, to this day, do every single orientation. We sit and we meet with all the new hires that are coming into the company. And one of the big things there is that we view it as kind of creating new torchbearers. It's people that are going to carry the soul of Buddy Brew forward, and it starts in that meeting. And so they have to hear our hearts, feel our soul, understand what our point of view is and why we do what we do. And that's kind of what that orientation is all about from our perspective. I mean, it goes into all the nitty-gritty of becoming a Buddy Brew employee too, but that's what we do every single time. And at about 140 employees, it's hard to know every single one of them. You can't anymore, right? So this is our one opportunity to sit with them, hear their questions, hear their dreams, because it is a dialogue that is going on in that meeting, but then press into them and to say, this is who we are and this is why we do what we do. And so we look at like our mission, vision, and values as kind of the yardstick that we hold every decision against. And if a decision doesn't align with those three, it's not the right decision. So we talk a lot about mission, vision, and values in that meeting. So our mission is to brew good and do good, right? Brew good is all about the coffee. Do good is all about the people, right? And so this all has to be right. And that starts from sourcing the best of the best beans in the world to roasting them to sweet, delicious perfection. And then the problem with all of that is that the power of the barista is they can turn all this beauty into a cup of crap like that. So you have to dive into the details of how this happens and how do you determine, is it good, is it bad, or whatever. And then we also say, here's the gig. You're empowered and authorized to make this right every single time. You can't send a bad cup of coffee out. You can't do it. So if you know that it is, don't send it out. Redo it, right? And then the do good piece is all about the people and our culture, but it's more than the culture, right? Because the people have to, like, our people have to be about each other. That whole, it's all about you thing. So like if there's a particular employee that's in the weeds or whatever, and they're just getting crushed by whatever is happening in the shop at that moment, you got to come alongside that person and help them through this thing, right? It's that simple, right? But it doesn't stop there. We also have to be a bright light in our community. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we're usually the last to close and the first to open when there is a hurricane or something horrible happening. And the idea there is that we're going to surge into needs where we can do something about them. And if that means being on Davis Islands, the day after the hurricane, giving out free coffee because that whole island, all those people lost everything, and this cup of coffee is just something, that becomes transforming. But it can't even stop there. We have to take it all the way back to where the hardest work in coffee is done, and that's at the farmer level. All specialty coffee is grown in the most impoverished areas of the world. These people don't have food security. They don't have clean water. They don't even have electricity, or food, right? So doing it the right way, which is relationally purchasing our coffee, changes that whole game. And the beauty of 15 years of doing it is that we get to see what buying coffee the right way does. It changes their world. There's a new processing facility. There's a new irrigation system. There's a new truck. There's whatever that is, it's changing the world, right? So that's the whole do-good piece. And then you have to roll that into our vision, which is to share, joy, and inspire hope that transforms our community and our world. 13 words. It took us a year and a half to develop that statement. 13,
I believe it, yeah.
And I find that most companies' vision statements
are... It was only because there was no ChatGPT. Yeah, would have been. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
You would have done it in 6 months with ChatGPT.
I did, right. But the idea there is that, every company has to have a vision statement, and I find that are big, trite statements that you hear once, probably in orientation, and you never hear again. It's not how we use our statement. We use it every single day. And this idea of those 13 words, they're all important. Sharing, joy, inspiration, transformation, right? Change the world, right? That's what we're built to do, and doing it all out of one specific place, and that's love. Love the people, all Amazing. Of them, beginning to end. I don't even know what the question was anymore, but that's the idea, all right?
That answer was awesome. So does it even matter? I mean, no, I'm just kidding. It's got, I think it's, how do you nurture culture and things like that once you've created that. And
we drive it every day. We have this whole idea. The big overarching concept in our stores is epic. And epic is EPEC, right? It's elevate product, elevate customer service, elevate the experience, all these things. And so everything we do in the stores is we drive epic. We need to be epic. If we're not epic, which if you think of the idea of epic, it's something so big, it's like never been seen before.
Of course.
That idea of elevation has to happen every single day, and we drive it, and we drive it, and we drive it. Do we do it perfectly? No. Is the execution perfect every single day? No. Stuff happens. People call in sick. Machines break. People are in bad moods.
Life happens.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
So, but it doesn't matter. That continuous and never-ending drive. I think Tony Robbins had this thing, continuing and never-ending improvement. It's that idea. We have to keep getting better and better.
To keep going,
and better.
In the right direction.
Right.
I want to, I didn't know that you were in real estate, so very interesting, and it makes sense, going on to my next question. You have some incredible locations. I mean, Hyde Park, Tampa International Airport, which I know we were talking about you license, the Armature Works, I believe as well. I mean, which is insane if you think about it, the amount of, foot traffic, which is obviously very important. You can't go up on, and then you have your, what is it, the Kennedy store?
Kennedy, Bay to Bay.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be very strategic because you do need that foot traffic element as well. When do you go, or how does the analysis go when you're like, okay, let's open another location? Is there like a metric? Is there, hey, this is where we want to be? Like, how does that conversation kind of happen?
That's a great question. I don't think I'm going to give you all the details of how
and
we
you shouldn't,
how we do what we do. But the idea is that we want to be able to
I guess let me kind of, I'll elevate that or whatever, so it's not as intimate. Is it more strategic or is it more organic?
I think it has to be both.
Okay.
I mean, in almost equal proportions, right? Our idea is that we want to be able to go into a neighborhood and instantly become part of that neighborhood. And whether it's at our Bay to Bay location or Hyde Park or even Kennedy, like we need to become what that neighborhood is.
It's a lot more than, oh, Orlando's busy, let's go there next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now foot traffic is everything, and like Hyde Park as an example is one of those things. When we went into Hyde Park, which is early on when the ownership changed in the village, we did that because, one, I live about a block and a half from there,
Sweet.
right? So I don't want to call it a defensive move. We just couldn't, but we couldn't envision any other coffee shop other than Buddy Brew there. It would have been just.
I don't blame you. Yeah, I get it.
And we knew that we could create a shop that would fit, that would all the neighbors would.
Our main office is 3 minutes away from like three of my partners.
Yeah.
And they're like, they drive 2 minutes to work. It's the same thing. It's like, we couldn't imagine another law firm being that close that we have to drive through, by every day.
Yeah, it just makes sense. So that was, that was one decision. But you look at like all the others. Kennedy was an interesting one. Nobody would rent to us, to be honest with you. And I was a real estate guy.
Really? Okay.
No, because we were a coffee roaster. And they're like, coffee roaster? What the heck is a coffee roaster?
Oh.
You're going to put this fire-burning thing in our place? No way. So Kennedy was the first piece of real estate I looked at. He said no for about 2 months. We went out and looked at everything that possibly could work for us and then circled back. And by that time, he had lost a tenant that was in the space.
Okay.
And he finally said, okay.
Yeah.
Been there 15 years, and changed everything.
I've never been there. I've had meetings there. I've, different times of the day. I've never, and I'm talking about 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the morning. I've never not seen that place at 80% or more capacity ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm usually waiting for a parking spot for at least a couple minutes because, that place is slammed.
Yeah. Parking is the bane of our existence. It's always South
everybody's.
Tampa. In South Tampa,
because it's dead real estate. I mean, it's like, as it's like, oh, well, we need more parking. And it's like, yeah, but we're not really making more money from parking, but, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And because we don't have drive-throughs, parking is important.
Is that strategic as well, that you don't have drive-throughs?
Well, no, we just haven't had the real estate that would allow it.
Fair enough.
Right, at this point. Would we love a drive-through? Sure. I mean, there's others, competition that I won't mention names, who's done very well with that kind of model. And that's Starbucks. They redid many of their locations so they could get a drive-through location rather than just a standalone. For us, we want to create an experience that's a little bit more. We want people to be able to come in. It's kind of like, when you have people over to your house, right? This idea of hospitality is the first thing you do when someone comes over and say, hey, can I get you something to drink or eat? Mm-hmm. Of course. That's what we do every single day. And then we have to make environments that are so awesome that people feel as if it's their own, or they're so welcome they can do whatever they need to do there. And if you look at what happens in our shops every day, they get it, and they're doing it. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little weird, but it's awesome. To me, it's a sign that we did something right there. Yeah. So anyway, we have a model. Of course, we have a model. We know exactly the footprint we need. We know exactly what the workflows are going to look like. But how do we change aesthetics to match the neighborhood? That's super important to us.
How do you become a community partner? And that's not a question. It's more of a statement. Because we operate on the same thing. It's like when we go and open up a new location, it's okay, we're going to go here. How do we get it integrated in the community as quickly as possible? Rather, we're not just trying to, place a location and say, hey, let's see how this goes and spend $1 bazillion on advertising. We want to say, how do we get involved with the chamber? How do we get involved with the people? How do they know, who do we, we are? And I'm sure it's very similar for you.
Yeah, I think that the answer is the question.
Yeah.
You have to become part of the very fabric of the community. And, coffee shops, I think, done right are because people, it's a, there's a reason why we were essential during, COVID times, right? Because coffee is essential.
Of course.
And if you've seen people before coffee and then seen them after coffee, you see that transformation.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. So for us though, it's, we are of the community. That is our whole goal, whatever that means, and so that's what we strive to do. A lot of our people come from, like our employees come from nearby, they're neighbors, right? And they want to work there. So a lot of that just happens kind of organically. And that's the way it should be.
One of the statements that you just made, I wanted to kind of capitalize on. So you said coffee is essential to people's lives. So we were in, I don't forget which store it was, in Hyde Park though, and they had one of their espresso machines, and my wife was getting they were giving out cups of espresso, and I walk over and I was like, this machine's $5,000. And I go to my wife, I'm like, I'm not buying this thing for $5,000. We don't drink that much coffee.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, but like people really, like you have no idea how much people love coffee. And then we connected and I kind of looked into it. It's like ritual, millions of people daily consume coffee.
Yeah.
It's like part of their lives as much as it is, going to the gym or, et cetera, et cetera. So I say that to say, I'm sure there's a lot of brand loyalty that comes along with coffee. How do you lure them over to the Buddy Brew?
Well, first of all, I think our coffee, let's look at coffee like from a big picture perspective. Coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world.
Behind what, oil?
Oil.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you think about how big that market is, it's ginormous, right? Absolutely ginormous. And so specialty coffee, even though it's a really small subset, is just better. And so you don't have to be a connoisseur to know that that cup is different than that Folgers I made at home earlier today. It's just better, right? And so we drive that, right? We make sure that people understand that this is something better. But they don't even have to know it to realize it. And you don't have to have the palate for it. Here's another interesting fun fact about coffee. Wine, like I said before, it's graded on a 100-point scale, and coffee is the same. So wine has about 800 different flavor characteristics that you can taste, right? Coffee has nearly 2,000. So if you think about it, it's an infinitely more complex product than even wine is. And the fervor over wine, right? Well, coffee's the same way. And once you get into it, all of a sudden you're tasting, oh my gosh, I think I got a little blueberry in that. Or, oh gosh, man, that chocolatiness was amazing. Or that mouthfeel was really heavy and awesome and creamy and delicious, right? That's what it becomes as you kind of get into it. And what we've seen over time is that people come in, they put, basically they get a cup of coffee, pour half of it out and put creamer in it, right? And sugar and all this other stuff. Which is all okay. That's the best thing about coffee. People get to have it exactly the way I want it every single day, right? So we don't care. Some specialty coffee shops do care. That's pretension. That's our enemy, right?
It's the TikTok barista.
Yep.
They make jokes about.
Yeah. So but for us though, over time we see these people all of a sudden, maybe they're not putting any cream in anymore. It's like, this is so good. I don't have to put cream in it.
Wow. What a compliment. Yeah.
It's amazing, or it's the latte person that all of a sudden is drinking, just a shot of espresso now. It happens. The coffee's that good. And so if it's that good, they don't need all this other crap. So that's kind of how it all happens, is the coffee's just better.
Yeah.
And it's a lot better. So
I want to go into one of the questions that I ask on every podcast.
Yeah.
When did you feel that you were successful?
With Dave
and his team, I sent over some of the questions that I was going to ask. So he had plenty of time to prepare.
Yeah. In many ways, I feel that success when I walk into a shop and I see people living lives together, sharing things. And that's another beauty of the 15 years is we've seen customers get married. We've seen our staff become best friends with customers and become travel buddies. We've seen all this stuff happen in shops. To me, that's success. We're creating community in our shops. That is the biggest one. To say that we're successful, I would say we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. We got a long way to go, and I think it's that drive for something better, to be better, to, whatever that means, be a better leader, to be, to have a better culture, to be a better, corporate citizen in the city, whatever that means. All those things.
It's like you said, that consistent and ongoing improvement.
So I view us as we are successful. We've created a brand that I believe is part of the very fabric of Tampa now, and that is an amazing gift. And I'm so grateful for it. But we have a long way to go.
What's next for Buddy Brew?
No, I would answer that question in a way that my wife would cringe at, so I won't even say it. But our goals were never to be a mom and pop. Our goals were to be a national player in the specialty coffee world. We have a national voice now. We're recognized across the country, and on the wholesale side of
How
our.
cool is that?
It's
How does
kind of
that
unbelievable.
not only did you create what you wanted to do locally, it's like, wow, people I can go to, a city and people know my company, my brand. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I would say, let's not overstate that either.
Of course.
But
it feels good, I'm sure.
well, and in the specialty coffee industry, we are a voice.
That's cool.
We go to our annual convention, and it's all over the country. It moves around, but we know people. We know it's like coming home. You get to meet all these people, and businesses just like Buddy Brew, or vendors and all these other things. We're known. And so that is, we're on our way. From a wholesale perspective, we're distributed, coast to coast now. And so our products are there.
Awesome.
We're moving. Our cafes are located really in Tampa Bay. Sarasota is our outlier. And so I think we have a lot of growth that needs to continue to happen from a cafe perspective. I think we need to move outside of our MSA, and really establish that the brand is going to carry from a cafe perspective outside of just Tampa in Sarasota. And then from a wholesale perspective, we just kind of continue to push, I think it's kind of happening,
I couldn't be more excited when your team said, hey, connecting and having you on the podcast. And I was like, I can't believe you would give your time and stuff like that, because I'm obviously a big fan and I'm a customer of what you do. And now learning your story, I'm even a bigger customer. So I'm excited to share that, with the people at Tampa Bay, because what you guys are doing is really right. And I appreciate your time this morning. And I will make sure, because obviously Buddy Brew is big on social media, that we tag their social media in the description below. As always, as I tell you, my producers will yell at me if I don't tell you to like and subscribe. And if anything, I will ask you a third ask in this episode. Go look up a location of Buddy Brew and go try their coffee, because not only is it amazing specialty coffee, because I've had it myself, I'm not just saying that, but also too, it sounds like you're going to get a customer experience that I've received as well, that's in line with the best you probably ever have. So
Thank you,
Dave.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Can I just do one last thing?
You can say whatever you want.
Awesome, that'd be great. First of all, thank you for having
My pleasure.
me. It's been my pleasure, and I love this kind of stuff, so it's great. One, we are launching our new toast menu today.
Okay.
And so...
so we're shooting this on August 8th. So it's already, by the time this comes out, they'll be well on their way in their toast menu.
Yeah.
So.
And so all the old classics are still there, but there's a bunch of new ones that are just going to be absolutely phenomenal. A big elevation of the toast menu. We launched smoothies earlier this summer and have been a wild success, kind of based loosely on the Erewhon smoothie.
Nice.
By the way, Erewhon is a customer of ours, and I don't know if you know about Erewhon. Erewhon is an LA grocery store chain. There's probably 10 or 12 of them.
Okay.
But they created these smoothies that sometimes sell for over $20 a smoothie. They're extraordinary. Yeah. So anyway, these smoothies are amazing. So and then we're going to have additional menu additions and changes coming in the future. I think we should have it all rolled out before the fourth quarter.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah,
so
big.
We're looking at, to summarize that, they got some smoothies going on, which I love smoothies. Super stoked on that. I'll have to stop by and try one of those. A bunch of new menu items that are coming out over Q3, so August onward. Yep. It sounds like all of that's going to be unveiled or unrevealed. I'm probably butchering that. They're going to be known before the holiday season.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Very cool.
100%.
Thanks again, man.
Thank
I appreciate you.
Oh,
we'll see you soon. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pleasure. See you guys.